Hey everybody, it's Wheel Trouble, and I just wanted to do a quick review of my experiences with Immortal Graphix and their custom tank pad, and want to talk about the artwork really quick. I'll go ahead and post a better view of it right there. And this was a design that's a derivative of a Jen Blake commission. Those of you that don't know, Jen Blake was an IDW comic artist. She was incredibly talented, and then she suffered some medical issues that took her out of the game. And so, Jen Blake, if you're out there, best wishes. If anyone knows the whereabouts or how Jen's doing, please feel free to comment below or PM me. I'm genuinely curious. I was a huge fan of her work, and so seeing her go off of the public stage the way she did was not really fun to watch. And so, anyway, enough of that. Back to the product at hand. So, those of you that don't know, I live with a graphic artist, an incredibly talented one. And so we decided, as kind of a tribute to Jen Blake, we were going to include some of Jen Blake's artwork-ish on my Versus. Now, the reason we went with the tank pad is it's something that's easily customizable. They're only usually about $50-$60 for a custom one. And I had also learned some lessons on my CBR, where belt buckles, things like that, would scratch the tank really easy. And so I didn't want to make that same mistake with my new bike. So, tank pad to the rescue. And you can go with hundreds of different brands of tank pad. The factory has one. There's tons and tons of Graphix. And Immortal Graphix was just the first one that happened to come across my radar when I Googled it. It really was. It was just, Google, there it is, Immortal Graphix, cool. And so, went with them. And my roommate went ahead and came up with a design really fast using Jen Blake's work. My roommate had colorized it, turned it from a basic earth pony to an alicorn, which is really kind of cool. And so, matter of fact, not just any, it's Luna. So, sorry Hasbro, it just happened. And added the clothing because the original pony was, ponies don't wear clothes. And so, added all of that and added the kanji. And yes, we do know what the kanji actually means. We did our research first, so you guys can't get me on the whole tattoo, cultural appropriation, blah, blah, blah. Some people tend to name bikes, guitars, things like that. I'm one of those people. And so we went ahead and named this bike after a fairly well-known female samurai. And so that's what the kanji is. So see you in the next segment. A tank pad is a sacrificial item. And I'm going to preface the rest of this review with that. I only expect a tank pad to get 1, maybe 2 years max. The reason for this is simple. A tank pad's entire goal in life is to take little metal bits, whether it be the zipper from your jacket or your belt buckle or whatever, and keep it from impacting the clear coat on your tank, which scuffs it up really bad. That's all they do. It's a sacrificial decal explicitly designed to take the hit so that your paint job doesn't. So just like with any other protective thing, whether it be skid plates, brakes, or crash bars, when they get used and abused, they're going to need replaced. So those of you who are looking for permanent options, you've got your bar set way too high. Bring it back down to reality here. It's a protective item. So let's go ahead and review the installation process. Installation was easy and I did not follow the instructions. Follow the instructions. I wanted to get this thing on. I was excited. And so I took some shortcuts that I knew would be kind of potential disaster. First things first, clean the tank. They recommend using something alcohol-free. Honestly, it doesn't matter that much. If you do use something with alcohol in it, it can degrade the glue. That's why they are particular about this. You do want to make sure the wax is off of your tank, however, so if you've got it waxed, you need to get that off. Because just like you want to adhere to dirt, you're not going to adhere to a wax job either. So, get it nice and clean. If you do use something alcohol-based, make sure you rinse it off very well and then allow it to dry. That is vitally important. Because like I just said, if you don't, the glue will not adhere correctly. And then you've just wasted your entire effort, in this case, $50. Moving on from there, they recommend you heat up the graphic. This is the step that I had completely skipped. And ask anybody who does vehicle wraps, any kind of decal jobs, everybody is going to recommend that you heat up whatever image you're trying to put on. The reason for this is simple. It gives the glue a little bit more flexibility, gives you a little bit of fudge factor, to where if you do make a small mistake before it's completely permanent, you can peel back, readjust, and then go back in at it. Now, that doesn't mean like slap it on, hope, and then pull it all back off. This means small increments as you're going along. So you still want to be very particular with your details, but it gives you that mistake factor that you can use later. Something that will help avoid mistakes, and they even advise this too, make sure you've got it centered up exactly where you want it before you try. And that's because the adhesive they use is amazing. Even though I didn't heat it up, the sucker's on there. And while they recommend that you let it cure for 24 hours, I let it cure for maybe 24 minutes, and it was on there just fine. I'm confident this thing is going to stick for eternity, and I'm going to need a hairdryer to get it off. So, what I would do, if I had to do this thing again, rather than just tearing the whole thing off the sticker sheet and then slowly trying to peel it on, like an idiot, what I would do is take an X-Acto knife and cut the little packaging sheet that it was on, not while it's on the tank, get a nice hard flat surface, a cutting board, and make sure while you cut it, you don't cut the decal itself, but cut the decal out, or at least cut the bottom portion or the top portion, so you can make sure that that's lined up, and that way you can slowly peel it back as you put it on, making sure to get rid of all of the air bubbles as you go. And that's going to help you the most, and if you also followed their instructions and made sure you heated everything up, you'll be fine. Now, what do you use to mark the tank to make sure that you've got everything level? Well, you can use chalk. That can be kind of hard on the clear coat though, as it's a fine dirt powder. Graphite works fine. If you've got a really good soft pencil, you'll be okay. If you've got a washable marker, that's fine too. I've actually done that. I know that seems weird taking a marker to your bike, but if it's a good washable, it's going to come right off with any good cleaner. So you'll be fine there too. So that's my recommendation. And they do recommend that you let the glue on the back cure for 24 hours. If you heat the thing up, do follow that instruction, because that glue's got to cool down. It's got to get tacky again so that it can actually do its job. Okay, so enough of that. Am I happy with the Graphix itself? Yeah, for the most part. We'll talk about the customer service side in a minute. The actual tank pad itself, I would give it 4.5, maybe even a 5 out of 5. It is exactly as described. It went on very well. Even though I did not put it on right, it is still pretty damned close to idiot-proof. So in that sense, the tank pad is absolutely great, especially at the price point. So there's that. Tank pads are about a dime a dozen, and Immortal Graphix has a ton of pre-made graphics to choose from. Now, moving on to the Immortal Graphix side of the review. I would, in the future, if I was going to use Immortal Graphix again, I would stick to their pre-made graphics. The reason being, the way they handled the customization on this was dismal. If I were just some squid who just wanted to have some custom graphic and I only gave them like a rough sketch and things like that that really weren't going to work, I could see it. Or like, oh, well, I'd like this just a little more left, but not quite rightish. You get what I'm saying? Where you're getting conflicting data and you've got the artist going, what the hell did you even mean? Okay, I would get that. But instead, we had a professional graphic artist show the exact image that we were deriving it from, then take it down to the actual tank pad itself using their template, and making sure it was a sufficient file size that they could shrink it down. If they had to blow it up, it would end up pixelated. So she made sure that they would have to shrink it down to the proper resolution. Meaning that she proved that it would fit exactly in the template, the exact way we wanted, and instead they came up with excuses like, there's not enough background. Now, I work with people that do vehicle wraps, posters, banners, things like that for a living, and I'll tell you something right now. That ink cost thing that they're talking about isn't that big of a deal. And the reason you know this is because they don't even mention it in their customization process. They don't care enough to mention it because the cost is negligible, especially on something this small. So, why did they make a big deal about it? Because they're lazy. The graphic artist that I had hired did all of the work for them, and they still decided to argue about it. So in the future, I would go somewhere else. In Immortal Graphix, here's why. There are hundreds of companies that do what you do. If you were a one-off company like T-Rex, where there's only 2 companies in the business, even if you made mistakes, I would be more ready to forgive them. Because the competition is so fierce, the tolerance for mistakes is much lower. Just like with any race, any sort of enduro, the more competition there is, the harder you have to work for it. And I realize this is just a $50 tank pad. You're not making much on it. But this review video is out there, and I'm not going to change it. I see no reason to. You can come up and defend it all you want. This is what it is. It is a consumer review. And I've had to point that out in the past before too. This is from the consumer side. This isn't a paid advertisement. So, Immortal Graphix, I'm sorry, but because of your customer service and because I'm only going to really be doing custom jobs when it comes to this sort of thing, you've lost me. Now, I'll still recommend you guys for your pre-mades, sure. You know, if someone's just wanting something cheap to throw on a bike just to protect it and they don't care, yeah, whatever. But if they're needing a custom job, I am going to advise that they look elsewhere. So, there you have it. The tank pad itself, absolutely great product. The company itself, 2 out of 5. Maybe a 3. So, there you have it. Wheel Trouble out.